Hi there, and welcome to Spotlight SAT Express, my 1-week online crash course. I really appreciate you trusting me to be able to provide this kind of valuable instruction. And I want to give you a quick overview of how I personally would recommend that you utilize this 1-week crash course to get the most out of it. Now, of course, these are some guidelines, and at the end of the day, it's up to you how you decide to use it. The nice thing is you do have lifetime access. You can revisit these modules at any time in between different test attempts, and you can keep refreshing on these skills. So let's go ahead and jump in here. First off, this is just a 44-second video about me, a little bit about my background. Here's where we're at right now, this program overview video. And I want you to notice that right here, I have an image of the 7-day structure. Now, the timing is a little bit off. I'll elaborate on that in a moment, but essentially here's the layout. Day 1, I'd recommend just download and transfer various things that I'm going to show you in a moment. Day 2 is practice test number 1. And the reason I recommend taking a full practice test is if you really want to see how you've progressed or the value of anything you purchase, for example, this course, we want to first see what's your baseline. And then from there, when it's all said and done, we'll take another practice test after you've gone through my instruction and the practices I provide and see what kind of gains you've made in just that 1-week period. So I think that's a really important first step. Then notice here on days 3 and 4, we're dedicating it to math, the geometry and trigonometry section in particular. Day 3 is all about the instruction aspect, whereas day 4 is about getting that practice in. Days 5 and 6 are dedicated to the reading and writing section. So day 5 is the instruction, day 6 is practice. And like I said, we want to finish out with a practice test to see how we've made improvements within those 4 days of instruction and practice. Then over here, we have resources to print. I would definitely recommend printing these 5 different PDFs, and let me show you what each one contains. So the table of contents document is basically just that. I lay out the 20 themes from the reading and writing section, as well as the 36 themes from the math section. Now, in this short amount of time that we have together, I wanted to pick the topics that I think would give you the highest leverage in the least amount of time. And to me, that was these themes 9 and 10. So form, structure, and sense, as well as boundaries. All 8 of these themes here are classified as conventions of standard English, which are basically the grammar related questions. And I really found that students struggle quite a bit with them. And notice that's 8 of the 20 themes, which means 40% of the content. So in that 1 day of instruction and the 1 day of practice, you're going to get 40% of the reading and writing section under your belt. For the math section, I chose to give you access to geometry and trigonometry because I have found that that tends to be an area that students do struggle with. And we do have 9 awesome programs of the 23 Spotlight SAT programs that really pertain to this particular section of the math. This next document is the Triple T document, Tom's Testing Tips for the reading and writing, in particular, all the themes that we're covering together. My document is really 26 pages in total, but just covering the 8 themes that we're going over together, it's 14 of those pages. So really more than half of the pages are dedicated to these grammar related or conventions of standard English questions. The next document is my Triple T document for the math section. Notice it's just 1 page long because I really believe that every math question could fall under these 4 steps. Of course, if it's a student produced response, it's not multiple choice in that case, then we would just really look at step 2, but you'll see me talk about that more in our instruction, as well as my worked out solutions to the practice questions. This next document is a really good supplement for the math section. It covers important math content for different areas of math. So for example, here you have algebra themes, and then you also have, notice that's 3 pages right there. So algebra is very important. Geometry is that next page, and then you have trigonometry and then probability. And then here is the reference document for my graphing calculator programs. Now what you'll find is this has 23 programs there. I give you access to 9 of them, and I'll show you where that tutorial video is in a moment. And if you choose to get the additional 14 programs, I'll show you how you can get those as well. And then here we have the Test Stress Success Manual PDF book, which is just a really awesome resource for working on that mental side of test taking. We have some other resources for the mental side as well, which we'll talk about in a moment, but this one's a really good one. It's something that I would recommend, honestly, just setting aside maybe 5 minutes a day and going through a particular theme. So notice, let's say we go to the table of contents. You don't need to read this from cover to cover. Instead, you just pick a topic that stands out to you, because more than likely, if it appeals to you, it's something that's going to resonate with you and more than likely be something you can apply on test day. So let's say stop scaring yourself on test stands out to you. Well, that's page 50. So up here, I'm going to go ahead and type in 50, and then it gets right to that page. And then let's see, it really just ends up being 1, 2, that's it, 2 pages. So it's very to the point, and hopefully you just get a takeaway from that content. Like I said, it would take fewer than 5 minutes, but I definitely think it's important to work on the mental side. So we took a look at the class resources. Now let's go down to these 3 videos. It's just all about the changes to the SAT. Now you may or may not already be aware of these changes, but this first video is just a 5-minute overview video of the top 10 changes. The next video is much more in-depth on the reading and writing section, and then the next one is about the math section. So broad at first, then more in-depth into each of the 2 respective sections. Now we're at the meat of the program. So day 1 is about doing the downloads that I mentioned. So like we said, downloads and transfer for day 1. So first off, we want to make sure we download Bluebook. This is the platform that College Board uses for the new digital SAT. And notice you have this 1.5-minute video that I walk you through exactly how to do the download. Then this next section is all about the graphing calculator programs. So notice we have 3 parts to this, and you can also see them from this view here when we're on this main page. So for the graphing calculator programs, you definitely want to transfer those 9 graphing calculator programs. And in this 3.5-minute video, I show exactly how to do that. In this next tutorial video, it's 13 minutes long, and I show you how to utilize each of those 9 programs. And here's that reference document that was already in the documents to print section under the resources category. And then finally, if you realize that at any point in the program, you know what, this would be really great to have the remaining 14 of the 23 graphing calculator programs, you can go ahead and purchase the rest of them for $47 through this link. Something to keep in mind, once you do purchase them, then it's actually going to take you to essentially a course where I help you transfer all 23 programs. In that case, when you get the opportunity in the TI Connect software, I would just override the ones that are duplicates, and that way you get all 23 at once. So now we're on to day 2, which is practice test number 1. So notice we have this section here, and notice we have that same video about how to set up Bluebook, but at this point you would have already done so the day prior, but just in case you need that refresher, and then you would be able to go to Bluebook and be able to complete practice test number 1. Now right after you do complete the practice test, the results will show up, but it can be a little bit difficult to find how to get back to those results if you get out of it. So here's the link to get to it right away. It'll take you to this page where you log in with your College Board credentials, and then you'll be able to see your results. And then we're on to day 3. So notice this is where we do the geometry and trigonometry instruction. And what you'll notice for days 3, 4, 5, and 6, I start out by having a mind mastery strategy video, which is basically a 1 to 2 minute video where I talk about the mental side of test taking and give a little bit of a tip. So for example, this one is That's Like Me. It's one of my favorites actually, and very applicable right after taking a practice test the day prior. But then once you've gone through that video and have that in mind, you can go through these 6 lessons, each of which is for that geometry and trigonometry section of the digital SAT math. And what you'll find for each of these videos is I have the practice question in the files section. So what I recommend you do before you start each of the respective videos is you pull up that question, attempt it yourself using your graphing calculator as much as you see fit, and then watch my instructional video so that you can see how I approached it, and you could see if you got it right or wrong. But regardless, I'm sure you'll be able to get some takeaways. Even if you got it correct, hopefully you have an open mind when you watch it and get to see some potential strategies, some ways you could use your graphing calculator that maybe you weren't aware of. And so you'll go through each of those videos, first doing the question in each section, just like I mentioned before. And like I said, it would take about 45 minutes. Then we're on to day 4. So this is where you actually do a practice assignment on the geometry and trigonometry section. So just like before, you have a mind mastery strategy video. This is actually one of my favorites. You check that out, and then you go ahead and do the day 4 assignment. So notice when you click here, it'll take you to this platform called TestPress. Now, shortly after you had purchased this course, you would have received an email like this. Of course, your email address will be listed here in this grayed out area, but your username is the email you use to sign up for this course, and the password is ZaraTutoring33. No spaces, all lowercase, and you would just click on that link, and I would save it if I were you. However, when you do click on the links within our course here, you'll be redirected anyway. What you'll find is this practice assignment will really mirror that Blue Book platform to a T. Even this part, it'll look very, very similar. And you'll go through the practice questions with the 35 minutes that you would normally get anyway on a math module. You'll be able to flag questions. You'll be able to use this feature here to eliminate options that you think it isn't. And they're going to be of varying levels. Some easy, some medium, some hard. But for the most part, I picked one where it was mostly medium level, so kind of right in the middle. Now, once you do complete that assignment, you'll see a button like this that says review, and you'll get to see some great analytics. You'll be able to go through, look at the ones that you got incorrect in particular. And in addition to seeing what you put and the answer explanation, the thing with math is I feel like it can be difficult to just read math and follow along. So for every single math question, I have a hyperlink to my worked out solutions. So what you'll find is in this video, it might be anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes. This one's just under 2 minutes long. I show how to solve the problem by hand, and I also show how to use one of my graphing calculator programs. So that's something that I think is really key, is it's not always just about how do you do the problem, but maybe there's a good way to do it more effectively or efficiently using your graphing calculator, and more specifically the programs that I've given you access to. And then we're on to day 5, the reading and writing instruction. So it's all about the conventions of standard English, which are those grammar related questions we talked about, and this will take about an hour. Now notice I talk about how it comes from pages 18 to 31 of my Triple T document, the Tom's Testing Tips, and we start out with our mind mastery strategy. Again, it's just a 1-minute video, but it's a good concept to keep in mind. And then we have the different lessons for reading and writing. And in the same way that I did so for the math, I have for each theme the practice question that you would complete first, see how you do on it, and then go into the instruction video. And regardless if you get it right or wrong, you want to look at the strategies that I talk about, and you'll see that I have this specific portion of my Triple T document attached in the file section for each respective theme. So here is specifically about subject-verb agreement, and I do the same for each of the other sections. Of course, at this point, you would have printed out the whole Triple T document for the reading, specifically for all these themes from that resource section that I talked about earlier in the video. So once you go through each of these themes, trying the question first and then watching the video afterward, then you'd be all set with day 5. On day 6, we're going to go ahead and do our practice for the reading and writing section. So just like before, we're going to go ahead and watch our mind mastery strategy. This one's a little bit longer, just over 2 minutes long, about test day 101, getting you in the right mindset as test day is approaching. And then also, I would highly recommend taking maybe 5 to 10 minutes to go through my Triple T reading and writing Quizlet that's specific to the themes for conventions of standard English. So notice I have a link that gets you right to that study set. And when you go into it, I would recommend utilizing the flashcards. So you go through the flashcards, see how comfortable you are, and then after you've reviewed those themes, then it's a perfect time to go ahead and put it to practice. And just like before, you click on the link, and if you're still logged in or haven't logged out yet from the previous session, you should be redirected right to this page. If you need to use your login credentials, then you would just do so. Remember, it's your email address that you use to sign up, and then Zara Tutoring 33. So you would go through, and just like before, it's going to look just like the real digital SAT, 27 questions for the reading and writing in 32 minutes. So you complete this section utilizing the marking for review or being able to eliminate answer options, treat it like it's the real test. And then once you're done, just like before, you can go to review. You'll see the analytics. You can look at the ones that you got incorrect. And for the reading and writing, I don't actually have the answer explanation videos. I felt like that was very needed for math because it's difficult to just read math. But for the reading and writing, usually when you see the answer explanations of why it is what it is and why it's not what you put, it tends to make sense. Now, another thing that I think is really useful, you could look at the time analytics, how long you spent on each question. And then this is the best part, the subject-wise analytics. When you go to reading and writing of those specific themes that you were tested on, which are different than the ones that I have showing here, but you'll be able to see, okay, for this particular theme, I did really well. I got 6 out of 6. But a theme like this, I only got 1 correct out of the 6. So that's pretty important to be aware of. And then whichever theme you really struggled with, you may want to go back to the instruction video, rewatch it, and then go back to those incorrect options. And let's say I determined that, let's say here, command of textual evidence was a difficult one for me. I'm going to press Control F. I'll type in command of textual evidence, and I see these 5 questions come up. Okay, great. So I'll go over this one, seeing if I can incorporate the strategies from the video that I would have just recently reviewed and see how that differs from the approach that I had taken. And you'll always be able to see the level of difficulty for that question, whether it was easy, medium, or hard. And then I'll go to the next one. All right, this is the second of the 5 that I got wrong of this theme. And I'll try to attempt it again using the strategies that we would have seen in the video. And then finally, we're on to day 7, where we're going to take another practice test and see how those 4 days of instruction and practice helped us to improve from day 2 on to day 7. So very similar to on day 2, do, you'll just click here. And at this point, you would have already downloaded Blue Book, of course. So you'll go to your Blue Book, and then here's that link again to see your results, just in case after you complete it, you somehow close the window. And that's everything. So I'm really excited to hear how things go for you. Please let me know if there's anything you would like to see tweaked or improved. I'm happy to make those changes. And I'd love to hear how you end up doing on the Real Digital SAT when you end up taking it. And remember, you got this.